Hello, everyone. I'm back. Week 3. A little delayed due to some technical difficulties, but that's all right. Everything happens in due time and when it's supposed to. So, yeah, Mercury was retrograde too. And yeah, now we're back in business. All right, so today's topic is about reality, life, death, and competition. What do those things have in common? All right, kind of random, only not really. Dun dun dun. So, the answer is that all of the above are a complete illusion. They are a game, they are not real. However, you want to say it, is that they're not real. Reality is not real, death is not real, life is not real, and competition is not real. There's no such thing as any of them. So, get comfortable because we're about to get kind of deep with this stuff. All right. So, despite how real these things may feel at the time, and trust me, I can definitely attest to that. All of these things are perceptions. They're just mind games and mind tricks, which I don't know. I guess you can say on both an interpersonal and intrapersonal level, if you think about it. So, when you think about an interpersonal level, right, stuff between two people, yourself and other people, it's easy to say, like, oh, okay, everybody has a different opinions, everybody has a different way of viewing the world, everybody has different feelings, right? So it's easy to see that that's subjective, right? You can say, oh, wow, well, my reality is obviously different from somebody else's because maybe you think that my burnt orange tights are, scary and they scare away babies and they confuse construction workers, but I think that they're divine, right? You think it's cold outside today, but maybe your elderly neighbor thinks that, it's a chill in the air and has on like a face mask and winter gear, ski clothes. I don't know. Be nice to the elderly though. But so it's easy to see like, okay, how two people can have varying realities, and then when you add more people into that, it just grows exponentially, right? We all see different things, but when it comes to an intrapersonal level, right? So perceptions between yourself, right? Within and between yourself and yourself, right? You may not realize just how finicky you can be even with yourself, right? So you say, I know what I like, and it's different from what this person likes. But do you realize that sometimes that changes even within yourself? So, for example, I mean, maybe a guy, you thought he was cute last night, but when the sun comes up, it's like, maybe I ain't as cute as I thought. Or maybe like foods that you loved a couple months ago don't taste the same now, right? It's like eating chili in the summer or something. I don't know. It's not the same as when it's like no degrees outside, right? When it's freezing, chili is like the best thing that ever happened since sliced bread, right? Um, but with that being said, it's easy to see just how our perceptions change, right? Even within ourselves. When you add time into this, right, that just makes it even more concrete, if you will, right? Because we grow, we change things that we liked when we were younger, we don't like anymore. And so, of course, this definitely happens between other people. Thus, perception is just perception and reality, I guess, have a complex relationship, right? Reality is just a matter of perception. That's all it is. It ain't real. It ain't real, y'all. The last example that I can give you of this is reality TV, right? So, how many people that think that that's real? You say, well, nobody. We all know that stuff is fake. But for somebody out there, those outlandishly unbelievable stories are a real reflection of their true reality, right? So some people are living those lives, even if they're fabricated. See what I'm saying? You're living it at the moment, and experiencing something makes it real. Experiencing pain makes it real. I can't tell you that something doesn't hurt you because you felt it, and because you felt it, it made it real, right? Not just that, but there are people somewhere in the world who really do the things that these reality TV stars do, maybe not the aggregate of their fabricated personalities, right? But there is somebody who's doing one of each of the things that they're doing on TV. Just keep that in mind. As twisted as that may sound, right? So brings me to the topic of life. And life is not real. Life is an illusion. It's a game. It's not real, y'all. So as we go through our days, and we encounter various circumstances, some we label as good, some we label as bad, but that's a problem in and of itself because this is life. There are no labels, right? It's all a matter of perception. You say something is good, but then that can change. It's just a matter of how you view it. You can say, oh, well, I got a flat tire. How could this be seen as good? Well, maybe you met somebody in the process, or it stopped you from, I don't know, getting into an accident or being in traffic. Like, you never know. So it's all a matter of perceptions and the labels that we apply, obviously. But as I've said before, all of this can seem real, right? You say, okay, I'm not labeling my pain, but it still hurts. So what are you saying? The best way that I can counter this is by using dreams as an example, like your real dreams. So unless you are having a lucid dream, which is a dream where you know that you're dreaming, and they are very, 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 very rare, then most of the time when you're dreaming or when your physical body is asleep to the rest of the world, right? Perception is reality. So when the rest of the world perceives you as being asleep, your mind actually thinks that you're awake. Ain't that crazy? That your mind thinks that you're awake. So how many times have you awakened to a reality that was nothing like your dreams? And what do you say? Oh man, it felt so real, right? I thought I was in Antarctica. I thought I was in Hawaii. Like, I thought I was on a boat. And your mind, I mean, you thought it was real until you were able to juxtapose that with your waking reality, right? When your eyes opened, you saw, oh, that was not real. But while your eyes were closed, it felt real, right? Your mind thought that it was real. Quick little story. I'll never forget the time when I was like, I don't know, 11, 12, I don't know. Maybe even preteen, barely a teenager. But I spent the night at a cousin's house, and I'm not going to name no names, and ended up having to sleep in the same room, bed, I don't know, something. We ended up in the same sleeping quarters. And her sister, who's like a year or so younger than me, now, I don't know what she thought she was doing in her dream, but when I woke up, I saw her literally licking the side of her fist like a mad person with her eyes closed, everything. True story. And so when I woke her up from what she had perceived to be reality, but was actually obviously a dream, what everybody else perceived as a dream, she seemed angry. She was mad. She told me that she had dreamt that she was licking an ice cream cone. Now, look, if I was 11, I don't know, she was probably like 10, or maybe we were even younger. But for a 10-year-old, like an ice cream cone, that's serious business. Like, that's serious currency. Like, don't play with little kids and their ice cream. But, I mean, she if you could have seen her, like the intensity with which she was licking her hand, like with the motion that you would hold a cone, and she was just licking, and that thing didn't exist. But I can't make this stuff up, y'all. It turns out that she wasn't just mad that I had awakened her, but also because she just knew that it had been real, right? So when we feel something and we just know that it's real, we feel it to our core, and then for somebody to shatter that quote unquote reality, I don't know, it can be kind of traumatizing. But either way, baby girl was pissed about losing her ice cream, and yeah, she was kind of cool on me for like the first 3 hours while she was awake. I'm like, it didn't exist. I didn't take you away from that because it never existed. But try explaining that to like an 8-year-old. So who's to say that what we perceive as life isn't the exact same thing, right? In many ancient cultures, it's believed that what we perceive as real life, like now, right, being awake, is actually sleep. And death, or the transitional period, is when we awaken, right? That's deep stuff. There are people who believe that. And how can we counter that? Because even while you're asleep, you wake up and you're like, that felt real. So who's to say that's not what we're going through now? We're all just playing a game, right? And then when we transition, that's when we wake up to reality as whatever that is, right? Deep. Makes perfect sense when you think about it, though. And you consider just how real your dreams feel. And ultimately how real reality feels, too. Which brings me to the next topic, competition. Competition ain't real. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. Ignore corporate America and just American culture in general, right? Well, there are some other cultures too that are pretty big on competition, but it's not real. It's not real. It's all a fabrication. Was created by the powers that be, right? To keep us constantly grabbing, chomping at the bit, wanting more, constantly producing for them. Like, let's think about it. We live in a capitalistic society, so more, 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 more. And somebody has to create that more, 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 and somebody has to consume that more, more, more. So we have this word called competition, right? Look to your left, look to your right. Those are the people to beat. False. First of all, what exactly are we competing for? The universe provides an abundance of literally everything for every creature forever. Birds, despite the fact that they aren't in absolute control over their lives, and they know this, they see their bigger creatures, i.e. humans, who preside over them and who can manipulate their food sources and all of this other stuff. Like, they don't worry about shortages of worms, ever, ever. Butterflies don't worry about nectar shortages, ever, right? You don't see the monarchs flying over, migrating from Canada to Mexico, and they be like, oh man, I hope it's some nectar at this next turn, I hope it's something coming up in this next tree. They don't think like that. They just assume that it's going to be there, and it is, right? They assume that there'll be more than enough. They don't say, well, it's millions of us right now. Like, I never have problems, finding nectar when it's just me, but I don't know, since there's a million monarchs, somebody might starve. No, they don't do that. They don't, because they know that there's more than enough. The earth will just keep producing more and more and more and more, right? And there always has been. So just consider this. Humans have been on this earth for millions of years. Millions. Yet we have never run out of fruit trees, out of water, grain, cotton sources to make clothes, rubber trees, nothing ever. Think about that. Think about every person who was ever born, who ever lived, even if briefly, in every corner of the earth. All of the humans who have ever come forward, all of the animals that have ever manifested into this reality, quote unquote. And yet and still, we still have enough of everything. We still have plenty of water. We still have plenty of food. Of course, all of the myth of the shortages, that's capitalism and lack mentality, which is a different topic for a different podcast. But there's always been enough. That's mind-boggling. We live on a quote-unquote finite planet, but yet there has always been enough. And no matter how many more people are born, there's still just always going to be enough. How does that work, right? Wow. Okay. So 7 billion humans, an untold amount in the past, right? And the earth just has continued to sustain all of us, all of its inhabitants. The trees need water, people need water, animals need water, insects need water, and it's always been enough for all of us. Nobody's competing against anybody. Nobody. Imagine that. So, competition for resources is a dun-dun-dun myth, right? People in third world countries are starving because of greed and unchecked capitalism. Fact. Not because Mother Earth lacks the capacity or the ability to sustain them. We got plenty. We throw stuff away. Think about Thanksgiving. Oh, I don't want leftovers. And you let it sit and sit and sit for days, and then you just throw it out. Or if you're nice, you give it to an animal or something. And then we tell people in struggling nations, oh, well, there's just simply not enough. How come it wasn't enough when we had excess during, Thanksgiving in the U.S.? So there is. It's all a mind game. It's all a mind game, right? It's crazy. So yeah. Secondly, Okay, so we already said, what are we competing for? Second thing, who are you competing with? Who? Who are you competing with? Fact. Two people from two different backgrounds, upbringings, life experiences, perception of the world, all of that, they cannot possibly compete with each other. You can't. If you were raised in a different way, if you were raised in a different area, if you were raised by different people, you can't compete. How is that possible? That doesn't make any sense at all. If you know anything about science, you know that you have to have controls, right? Scientific experiments are carried out in very controlled environments. Every single thing has to be exactly the same in order to see if the outcome will be different. But if you already know that you're starting out in different areas with different amounts of resources, with different access to resources, then it doesn't make sense for you to think that you're competing with somebody else. Even with your own siblings, within your own family, you say, well, we had the same life experiences, the same parents, the same access to resources, blah, 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 blah. You still have different talents, right? You have different interests, and that'll make one person better suited for a particular position than others or for doing something, right? Maybe one person's stronger, one person's more intellectual. Like, that happens. The most extreme situation that I can think of with this is that in middle school, there was this set of twins that I was fascinated with. And I'm fascinated by twins because it's like you manifested separately. Like everybody has their twin, but you guys decide to manifest separately. And they were identical, but were they identical? I forget. It was a boy and a girl. No, they weren't identical. And I just never really was able to reconcile in my mind how different they were. It was like night and day. Like, how is it that y'all look so different? Personalities, like, one was tall, one was short, one was hefty, one was skinny. Like, it was just like, wow. And the girl didn't have all of the necessarily feminine attributes that we would attribute, right? So it was so weird. One was gentle, one wasn't. And I'm like, these people shared the same womb. Like, it don't get no more, like, closer than that. And yet they were different, right? They were different. So if they can't even compete against each other, then how do you think that you would be able to compete with somebody else for anything? It doesn't even make sense. Oh, well, we went to the same school, somebody may have had lead in their water. True story, this is happening. Or maybe you were given an instrument when you were 5, from your grandma, and this person had to catch up later. Like, it's just so many different variables and factors, which would just prove the fact that you can't possibly compete with anybody. And you definitely can't compete in a corporate environment. Like, maybe you have a different interest. Maybe you don't like spreadsheets, and this person does. And so that already, like, changes everything in your ability to even do those simple tasks. So the person who's less of a fit for a position just has to align their energy to something better suited to who they are. That's how it works. It's not, well, I beat this person, right? We're competing and they lost. No, the person who didn't get the position didn't lose. They just have to use their gifts for what they are good at. They have to align their energy to what suits them. Maybe that suits you and this doesn't, right? If you race someone, physically race them, and you run, the person who lost, maybe they're more of a long distance runner, right? And y'all did a sprint. Or maybe it's the opposite, right? So maybe they need to start doing cross-country running or something. Maybe they don't even like running at all, right? So, like, as you see all these examples, like, you see how in-depth this goes. And the more in-depth my examples go, the more it proves the fact that there is no competition, right? We can't compete because the universe doesn't even deal in competition. We are all one. We are all one. We are all one. The universe deals in vibrations, right? Vibrations. That means we attract the things that match our vibrations. Or more specifically, we attract what we are. We attract what we are. And if you don't believe in vibrations and you say, oh, that energy, that's weird, I can't wrap my mind around that. First of all, Wi-Fi. Yeah, you believe in those vibrations, right? They're telling you, oh, tiny waves are coming into your home and allowing you to access the World Wide Web. Like, how can you wrap your mind around wireless internet but not vibrations? It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. So, and also, quantum physics, right? Take a gander at quantum physics. You'll learn that literally every cell in every object under the sun is constantly vibrating. Even those, especially those, I guess you could say, which make up the human body, right? We're always moving, we're always vibrating. So to blindly say that you're in competition with somebody else is honestly, it's a cop out. It's a cop out, right? It's impossible to compete with anyone other than yourself in the past, in the present, in the future. Anything else is simply false. Last example I'll give you of this is I like to think of two-time gold medalist Clarissa Shields, right? Boxer, women's boxer. She is amazing. And you know, you look at her and you say, oh, wow, think about how many people she had to beat, how good she must have been, right? How competitive she must have been. But when you learn about her life story, it all starts to make more sense, right? She may have beat others on her way to the top, yes, but she first had to beat herself. The first person she was competing with was herself, not those people. And I'm going to tell you why. Did you know that when she was 5, she was raped? She was molested at 7, neglected at 8. So you tell me, she had to overcome all of those things, all those negative experiences, and her natural reactions to those, right? She had to beat herself. It was a mind game. After all of her pain, and she could have allowed those things to just ruin her, and some people do, and that happens. Those are traumatic things for a child to endure. But she rose up and she channeled her anger and her pain into boxing, into something else. And once she was able to do that, once she was able to beat herself, everything else just fell into place. Competing against everybody else, it was a joke. Same with Serena Williams, right? You're like, oh, these people are just on. Like, they can't lose. They are unstoppable. That's because they have all cracked the code. They ain't competing against nobody else. They had to compete against themselves first. And once they aligned themselves with what they wanted, right, they overcame any mental blockages and things like that, all of the mental junk that we are all carrying around, those hurdles, once they were able to get over those things, literally there was no competition. These people are falling at their feet like it's effortless almost. Why? Because the main person that they were competing with, the person that you come to this life to compete with, yourself, that was out of the way. So everybody else is just kind of like, it's a joke. There is no competition, right? Which leads me to the final illusion, death. Think about energy. Everything is made up of energy. We learn in middle school science class that energy can never be created or destroyed, only transferred. Fact. Saying that you feel alive, right? Oh, this person, she's just so full of life, means that they have a lot of energy, right? You feel energetic. The opposite of being alive, as we know it, is being dead, right? Deceased. Or lacking energy, not moving. But since energy doesn't disappear, it has to transition into another form. So where does it go, right? Where does it go? We know that death isn't about the body because we will be able to bring people back to life by simply fixing their health problems, right? It would be like batteries, okay? In electronics, the batteries die, the energy dies. What do? We replace it, and your device can go on and on and on. But with humans, with people, living, breathing items, it's not the same thing. How come when I fixed your heart, you didn't come back to life, right? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. The energy doesn't come back in the human form after it leaves, right? It doesn't, because there's something bigger. We have souls and we have other purposes, and I'm not going to go into that. But what happens? What happens to the energy? What happens to the energy that this person embodied? They were so full of life, and now they're not. Well, think about ice. After ice reaches a certain temperature, it melts and becomes water, right? Water is just ice in a different form. We don't say when ice melts that it died, right? Oh, my ice became water. My ice died. Oh, no, it transitioned into another form. The molecules are still the same. They just are arranged differently, and that's what makes them look different, right? That's what makes it look like water versus ice. So taking it further, when we heat water to a certain temperature or boiling point, I think it's what, 212 degrees? I don't know. I used to know that. It changes form and becomes steam, right? So yet again, we don't say that the water dies when it becomes steam. It just changes form. The energy just transitions into something else. What few people know is that actual steam is invisible. So that's little squiggly white stuff that you see boiling above your boiling water. That's condensation. Just so you know, it's not steam. True steam is invisible. That's the very nature, the definition of steam. So it can be said that ice, in transitioning from water to steam or solid into liquid into gas, eventually becomes completely invisible, right? Your ice becomes water, becomes steam. Something that you could see, you could hold, you could feel in your hands is now something, and it was cold, is now something so hot that it can burn your skin off, and you can't even see it, right? You can't even see it. So it's crazy. You go from that one extreme to the next, right? One extreme to the next. And you say, well, there's no such thing as steam, but you can feel it. You can feel steam. You feel the burn. You feel the effects of it. So steam is definitely real, just as real as that ice was. And it can hurt you just as much as that ice was able to. And so goes the human experience. Energy never dies because it can never be destroyed, right? Which explains why those who have transitioned from the physical plane can still be felt. It's like steam, right? Human spirits are like steam. Deep. Maybe you're a little nervous, you're scared, like, oh, what's all this around me that I can't see? You should be. There's a lot of stuff around you can't see, right? But yes, so we covered some deep stuff, and I hope that this podcast soothes the soul of someone who's grieving or feeling stuck in the rat race or frustrated with their own rendition of reality, right? Smile, baby, because none of it is real. 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 Consider yourself liberated. Until next time, love and light, y'all. Have a good day. Happy Monday.